your kid needs to be seen and heard, and felt, because there's nothing like going through something and feeling like nobody else is recognizing it, nobody else is mentioning it. So it's not a good feeling, and it can be lifelong results for that early intervention.
This is Megan, owner of Dyslexia on Demand.
And I'm Eryn, owner of Advocate to Educate.
And we are the Don't Call on Me podcast.
We are here to talk about dyslexia, to remove the stigma, to hear what families really go through, and to share their stories.
In both of our businesses and personal experiences, on a daily basis, we listen to people telling their stories. Many of heartbreak, many of struggle, but most all have a silver lining, even eventually.
It's all about the stories. The more we share, the more we realize we aren't alone and we are a community. No, a tribe standing together. The Don't Call on Me podcast is brought to you by Dyslexia on Demand and Advocate to Educate.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. We are so excited today to hear from Lisa DeLaet. I know that you have done a lot of work in just kind of the dyslexia world, or just lots of advocacy and efforts, and we are so excited to hear from you today. So thanks for joining us. And why don't you just kind of give everybody a little bit of a brief introduction about yourself?
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, Eryn, for having me. So yes, Lisa DeLaet, and I currently live in Ketchikan, Alaska. My family and I have moved for the past 20 years, being in the Coast Guard, and I work in the behavioral health field. And I have a husband who has dyslexia and a son who has dyslexia. And I would guess, but she hasn't been tested, a teenage daughter who also has dyslexia.
Party at your house,
right?
It is. We're the fun ones, I have to say. Like, we're the ones cracking the jokes, being silly, saying things that are so just maybe not the right words. And they're looking at us like, is that really what you meant? But yeah, so I'm sure it's quite entertaining to be in your house.
Very much so. Yes. They're all full of personality and lots of laughs. And they're just, they're all bright and intelligent and creative. It's a lot of fun. My life would be boring if I didn't have all.
I mean, I'm not saying that, but I kind of am.
If you could just start out by telling us a little bit about your dyslexia journey. I know it's not yours individually, but obviously it's like we were talking about, it's a family affair. So
Yes. So when I met my husband, I knew that he had like undiagnosed dyslexia from his story of being held back twice in elementary and then still not graduating on time. And like we'd write cards together and I'd always have to correct his and things like that. And so it was joking. And he always just said, I'm probably dyslexic. And so when we had children, I didn't really notice it with my daughter because her memorization, her memory, her other skills played a factor. So I kind of call her that stealth dyslexic. And then we also moved her after kindergarten, before first grade, from Alaska to Illinois. And so standards and expectations are different. So then when she was behind there, so those kinds of things. So it got away from us. But then when my son was around preschool age, I noticed some things that were different than Morgan, or my daughter, when she was little and that preschool age. Things like having difficulty with colors, shapes, numbers, and letters, even just singing the alphabet. And so then I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not the best teacher for him. He is a second born. He is a boy. Like, he's got these other interests and things. So I kind of let that take over a little bit. And then when he started kindergarten, we got to that first parent teacher conference and he really hadn't made any progress. Then I became concerned. Right. I was like, okay, it's not me. It's like, this is school, this is kindergarten. And the school really wouldn't say the D word. I just kind of had thought about it. So I went into that full mama bird type thing and just did my research. And so thankful nowadays for internet, for Facebook groups, all of that and just books at the library and such, that I quickly learned that is most definitely what we're probably looking at. I went to the school and the school said, nope, wait and see.
Yeah,
And
they all say that always,
Mhm.
even
yes. Yep. I hear it over and over now that I work with other families. Since then, it's the typical, the same stuff. But yep, we'll wait and see. Nope, we'll start with a few accommodations. Nope, we have to do RTI first, and then he has to fail that, these things. And I said, nope, that's not acceptable. I am so thankful for those Facebook groups and other groups of like, this is what you do. You write a written request for
right,
evaluation. So I went that route, and I knew that was going to take a long time. So I went the pediatrician route as well at the same time. And I'm so thankful that our traveler doctor, the pediatrician in Cordova, Alaska, had just been to a Reading Right Alaska, a conference where they spoke about dyslexia.
Wow. That is luck. And I hear a lot about the pediatricians, unfortunately, telling me that, they're like, we're not trained in this, yet parents come to us all the time asking us questions. And we feel like we have to say something in the sense of like, they don't even know what to say. And so I've been thinking about how can we like triage with them? Because really it would be so great if they could say, let me step out and call somebody and get back to you. That's a big area of misinformation being funneled from pediatricians, unfortunately.
Completely. And there are actually still a handful of states where dyslexia is considered a medical diagnosis. So they are going to the pediatricians and they find the exact same situation, right? That in 2024, there's such little information or knowledge in the hands of the people where it needs to be, so even though this is not a medical diagnosis, regardless of how some states classify it, that is an individual who you do turn to for support and guidance. And they need to know, the educators need to know. We do try to get in front of as many pediatricians as possible, but think about how many pediatricians are out there.
And the stories that I read about and was warned, they were like, this is what you're going to hear. You're going to hear, this is not a medical thing. You need to talk to the school, because the school says, no, we can't handle this. You need to talk to a pediatrician. And so then the families are just bounced around. So
totally. It's
unbelievable, amount of luck that I had a pediatrician, a traveling one, that I just went to a conference, just learned this information. So not only know what to say, but what to ask. And he did. And I've had others too say, you know more than I do about this. Like, just let me write you a referral. So doing that research, he was like, yep, this is what it sounds like. So I was just so thankful that those two paralleled, the individual evaluation and the school evaluation as well. And they both turned up, that's probably what we're looking at. Of course, the school wouldn't use the word dyslexia, but that he did meet criteria for an IEP.
What grade was this?
Kindergarten.
Still kinder. Okay.
Yep. So that's why I like knowing this was going to take some time. I started this at the first conferences in kindergarten. We signed the IEP the very last day of school that year. And that's why I'm always like, if you even, to others, if you even think that this is what it is, get the process started now, because it's going to take 9 months, a little bit.
So basically you're a tiger mom in the best way.
I feel like in a very gentle way, but I mean,
well, of course, I just mean it in the best way, because how many people, like, you jumped on it, you educated yourself and you pushed for that. Most parents, they do wait and see, or they wait for the guidance of the school. You just knew you had that. I always call it mama gut, that you knew to chase it. You should be very proud of yourself for that. It's just a lot about who you are.
Getting the identification early and the intervention early is something that not a lot of parents can get on their own. So more kudos to you, because just because you see dyslexia doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get an IEP either. So
that early intervention completely changes everything.
I cannot imagine where he would be if we started this in 3rd or 4th grade, like most end up doing.
Right.
I can't even imagine.
My wish in the world is that the term early intervention can be opened up for other spaces other than autism. Early intervention for kids who are dyslexic will make or break their future.
I always say you can turn a speedboat around really quickly, but a tugboat takes a lot longer. So when we can turn that speedboat around really early, a lot of times it is before they have that self-awareness of don't call on me or I'm dumb compared to everyone else, where we all know that is not the case. And one last little bit, whoever did the autism marketing also needs to do the dyslexia, just like you're saying. They got insurance coverage. I mean, what they've done is insane. And knowing how many steps that had to take is amazing. So Lisa,
I agree.
I'm so sorry that we are big interrupters today.
No,
we really do want to
this
hear
is natural conversation.
Okay.
And that's connection. That shows connection right there. And that, so many stories are so similar, and the path forward is known. Like we know we need the marketing. We know we need the kindergarten screeners, all of those things. So that is one thing that you all touched on was that early intervention in Alaska. I know we're not the last state, but I think we're one of the few left that just started the mandatory screeners in kindergarten. And if you're flagged for the dyslexia screener, then you get the dyslexia screener. So that's a huge step. And I feel like, all the moms and dads and professionals before me that led to this to finally come into place this year. And yes, it was tough on the schools and, funding and all of that, but it's absolutely necessary if we want to improve the lives of these kiddos.
100%.
Okay, so your son's in kindergarten, you get this IEP the last day of school, which is always fun because nothing ever gets done after that, because then you have to wait. So what happened from there?
That was my thing. And so, how you called me a little bit of a mama tiger. And, I made a dyslexia video that was shown for a health equity summit for the state of Alaska and then throughout the nation. And I talk about in there, listening to your intuition as a parent, not waiting for the school. I share in there about, initially I may have come across rude when I was talking to the school, just trying to talk about something I didn't really know much about and that I expected them to know a lot about.
Yeah.
I got a letter in the mail after the end of the school year, so during the summer, from the SPED director. And I have it here so that you could remember, but it's just really quick. It just says, Lisa, I admire your support for your children. You are a beautiful family. And it chokes me up because I didn't feel so great in those meetings,
right?
But my kiddo got what he needed. If I would have done anything less, it wouldn't have happened.
And you have an onus to your children, not to the school. And I know It's really hard because I am a parent who has also had to advocate for her children. So we can all cry together.
Right. Yes. Thanks for giving me the space to do that. But I just feel like it is important that, your children need you. You're the one, you have to listen to the intuition. You see it, you hear it, you feel it. You got to go with it and just do everything that you can for it. So,
yeah.
But yeah, school services have been very minimal until this year. And he just completed 3rd grade. And so he's been with a private company in Alaska. There's only 2 that I'm aware of for the whole state. And so this year, he finally made enough gains to be more than what his peers have done in a school year. So, all the time in his interventions in school, out of class, and then his tutoring 3 days a week outside of school, he's the one doing all of this work. And I'm just so thankful that he's finally making those gains, that he's making more gains than the average kiddo in the school year. And that takes a lot of work. And that's not me, that's him.
Well, totally. And he has something to feel like he's showing for all of that extra investment that he's having to make, away from his personal time. So I bet you that's just another reason that it's just so much more meaningful to him.
It is. And then I think it was you, Eryn, that mentioned it of he raises his hand and reads out loud, aloud when they're reading a classroom book. He's the one raising his hand. He knows he's behind. He knows there's a difference between the other readers, but his self-esteem and his confidence are so intact that he's it's okay. And he knows that there's probably, 2, 3, 4 others in his class that are in a similar situation as him. So just that early intervention to save that confidence, that self-esteem, priceless.
The early intervention piece, I really hope we see through all these interviews that really does make a big impact, because it makes a lot of sense to me. And I would hope it does for the other kids that are getting that. So volunteering to read out loud, and you're probably like, what?
And that's why I mentioned it, because most kids are just sweating bullets. And we read the book Fish in a Tree. She does anything, like you're saying, anything to get out of reading, writing, all of the things, not wanting to go to school, things like that. So I just that to me was like absolutely amazing. And when the teacher sent me a video of it, like just tears.
Oh, you're so, of course. You're kids are willing to go to the principal's office, man. They're willing to do anything, all to save face.
So tell us a little bit about your daughter and that piece of the journey, because you were saying that she has been identified with dyslexia, correct?
Well, I mean, just through me and my research.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. But as you said that she's a stealth dyslexic, which 100% we see those all the time. But how did you see it? Do you see how it manifests itself? Any of that kind of stuff?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for asking about her. And she just recently, she'll now crack jokes. She'll mispronounce words. She will kind of create a word that's not real. She'll use sounds like words, like totally different definitions, but they sound like the same. She's 16. She's going into her junior year, and she is a 4.0, smart as a whip, like, I think she's going in calculus or something. Like, she's unbelievably smart, intelligent, I guess, like steel trap in that brain. She will memorize things. And looking back, I think that's what she did with words, is that she memorized, I don't remember the number of like the average words that we all memorize, but she's definitely over that. So that memory, that steel trap has really helped her. And so now she kind of laughs about it. She's starting to accept it, I think, a little bit. And she doesn't want to get a diagnosis or any, she's just not ready for that level yet, because she's used her other resources in her brain.
I am not in your daughter's brain, but from everything I understand, she is having to work like 600 times harder than her neurotypical reading peers. The other thing that I say is, like, she doesn't know any different, because that's the only way she's ever known that. But did you ever, like, as she was growing up, see any just kind of emotional distress about just like how hard she had to work, or not really?
So there was the time where we moved, when she finished kindergarten here and feeling like she's advanced, and then moving to the new state of Illinois. And then her teacher had mentioned like social emotional. And I'm like, this kid is actually like really social and has friends and, a little bit shy, but just like, I didn't see those problems. The teacher was seeing the social emotional, but not identifying the reading part, the reading and writing spelling part. Unbelievably thankful for her second grade teacher there in Illinois. She has since went on to get like a master's in reading and a reading specialist and things. And I do like to think that maybe Morgan was part of her story, but she connected with Morgan, and I think without knowing it, I mean, maybe her education gave her the heads up to help Morgan. And then Morgan not only got on grade level, but went above, like, flew past her peers in that very short second grade year. So then I was like, oh, okay, we're good. And she's amazing at math. And she holds her pencil grip. She's got the two fingers over. She's got some of those signs outside, the other signs. I don't know if she's ever going to need or want extra supports. I don't know. I don't know if college will be a challenge for her or not. I don't know. She's like, she's in the advanced English and math, and she plays volleyball and dances and things. And so I don't know. And I've read a little bit about dyslexia kind of on a spectrum. So maybe she is on that lower level of, her dyslexia is not the same as my husband's or her brother's. And so maybe that also is a factor in it.
There's not a need to fix something that's not broken and devastating. And she could just have traits, and she could have just those traits, and that's it.
When I talk to parents who are looking for therapy for their child who is more of an adult child or pushing that limit, about to go into college, or someone who is in college, etc. A lot of times I kind of dissuade them, or I'm very transparent and I say, look, the time it's going to take is going to be much longer. The repetition number is going to be much higher. And at the end of the day, you've made it this far. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to commit to what it's going to take to get you there? And that gain is not going to be like it would be if you were 7 years old, unfortunately. And I bet you've become really, really great at your assistive technology, regardless of whether or not you've had an official accommodation there. That's just something we all use. We're all using assistive technology every day for everything. Right. So if that is enough for you, and there's a handful that do want to commit to it because they see the struggle that they're having on a regular basis. And we do still see great progress and gains at that age because they're working with somebody who's like a highly, highly trained professional who kind of understands how to make those adaptations. But what I say is if you're not willing at your age to commit to this, if they don't have an identification, I will say, go ahead and get tested, even if it's just for shits and giggles, so we can have that accommodation potential ready for you in college, to have that 504 to get those accommodations. So obviously it's everyone's personal decision as to what they want to do. But sometimes I say, get that label on paper just so you have that in your back pocket.
I agree. Thank you for that. I think I do want to cover just a little bit of the advocacy.
Yes, because I was going to ask you about that next.
Through advocacy, I feel like I started advocating just right away for my own child. And then it was just quickly like I realized how needed I was for others. The video that I did, I end with, not only does your own kid need you, but there's other kids that need you and your voice as well. So I started speaking at like school board meetings. One of the that I love that I got to do a year ago was the preschool year. So that there was 2 days of training. Our school district did a trauma-informed conference for all of the school district staff. I was expecting a no when I said I would love to do a presentation on dyslexia, a parent's perspective. And they said yes. And so, I started the little bit of training of like, I'm not here to lecture anybody, I'm here because, when I first dove into dyslexia, the research, I pulled up some YouTube videos that are aged, but they're grown men and women, CEOs, highly intelligent individuals, highly successful individuals who break down and cry when they talk about their dyslexia, when they talk about their school years, when they talk about feeling lazy, dumb, stupid, all of those things. And so then I'm like, okay, this belongs at a trauma-informed conference for a school district because, I don't think they do it intentionally. They just don't know.
Right.
They're not, they don't learn it in college. They have like 1 day on dyslexia or learning disabilities
or none.
So yeah, I wasn't there to lecture them, but just to let them know that there's this opportunity for them to recognize a kid who's struggling. What are the signs? Those kinds of things. It just felt amazing. And I presented on 2 different times. The first time there was like 7 people in the room. I'm like, oh, kind of bummed, but I'll take even one person. And the afternoon one the room was packed, like 50 some people in this little classroom, and so I felt like that piece for me was really eye-opening of like how hungry they were for the information.
First of all, hats off to your district. I'm very impressed that they held this like trauma-informed, like it just feels so progressive. It's not, but for a school, I'm just blown away by that. But you did make a huge impact that day.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And that video that you were referring to that you made, is that out on YouTube for parents to be able
to see? It is.
I
think I threw it up there, got a couple of views, and then I had it on Facebook or whatever, but I would gladly email it to you all or, the link or whatever. I was very thankful for that because that was a health equity summit. And someone had asked me you get to do one of these on dyslexia? And I'm like, well, your education is part of your health It's a social determinant of health. Like, yeah, it absolutely fits in there. And we talk about, mental health, behavioral
Yes.
health. My son and I, so through my workplace, we do a suicide prevention, awareness and prevention run every year. And on the back of the shirt, it says, I run for, and you just fill in the blank line. And my son wrote, kids with dyslexia, and so many people were like, oh, yeah. And then I talked about like, mental health and suicide rates and such, and, prison and things like that. And so making that tie and that connection really opens the eyes to a lot of people.
I have chills. We all just need to, anyone who is even remotely impacted needs to just be a voice, just like
Yeah.
what you're doing today, Lisa, just what we're doing, because we can't just assume and wait for the schools to do that. All legislative change has been led by parents. It's
Mhm.
just by those voices.
Because I heard you very loud and clear when you were discussing your video that listening to your gut as a parent was like, number one. I think your kids are pretty well supported. So what would you tell other kids, and what advice would you give parents?
Thank you. I do. I think listening to that gut feeling, that intuition is number one. Your kid needs to be seen and heard, and felt, because there's nothing like going through something and feeling like nobody else is recognizing it, nobody else is mentioning it. It's not a good feeling, and it can be lifelong results for that early intervention. I do recommend going both the IEE and the IEP route if you can. I know that insurance is a tricky thing. Even with mine, it was a tricky thing, but we make it work. Not relying on your children's strengths, but playing to your children's strengths. There's so many fun ways to learn to read, to learn to spell, and that to remember how like exhausted their brain is, that they're working twice as hard. So if they're able to accomplish something that their peers are, kudos to them, because they worked twice as hard as their classmate.
Mm.
And I think that early recognition, that, appropriate interventions, just, science of reading, evidence-based programs. There's so much out there. If you went to go Google it, and you would just be overwhelmed with the options. So, talking with others and figuring out what programs are appropriate for dyslexia. There's a lot out there that is not appropriate for dyslexia. Yeah, strengths, like sometimes it could be vocabulary, problem solving, storytelling. The thing that I'm learning right now is that, despite our best efforts since the end of kindergarten, that assistive technology may still be in my son's future, and that's okay. That's a big one for me, because I'm like, I did what I was supposed to do. I caught it young, all of that. But this is long and slow
Yeah.
progress, so it's okay if assisted technology is still something that is necessary.
I think that that's really great advice, Lisa, to hear that from a parent's mouth, not, a therapist's mouth, and also to hear it from you too, Eryn. But
Yeah.
Accommodations are really, really important throughout the life of a child, or an individual with dyslexia. So
Yeah. And I would just like to add, I mean, I shared on social media before about like, MIT and other colleges that see dyslexia as a skill, as a benefit, and they actually seek out that information. Even what's the job finding one that added a dyslexia
yeah,
check?
LinkedIn, hashtag
Yeah.
dyslexic strength.
Yeah.
No, sorry,
things
hashtag dyslexic thinking. I'm so sorry.
it can be a strength, using the other side of your brain more, and that creativity and all those other skills that are on the other side of your brain. Those are amazing. I have mentioned to my family before of like, I kind of wish I had your guys' brain
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm at work. I'm like, that critical thinking, that creative thinking, I'm like, I just can't tap in there. Many, many strengths that come with it. So
I hear you. We so appreciate hearing from you. You have such a valuable perspective as a mom of two with dyslexia who have really fought that fight. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time and for doing this kind of work. Because like you both said, there's so much more work to do. So many of us are individually fighting this fight. And I think when we come together and share our stories, that we can create that awareness and that change that's needed.
Today's episode is sponsored by Dyslexia On Demand. Dyslexia On Demand uses only the highest trained dyslexia therapists, and it's all one-on-one and individualized to your child's needs. The best part is that it doesn't matter where you're located because it's all virtual. Visit us at dyslexiaondemand.com to learn more.
Today's episode is sponsored by Advocate to Educate. We help parents navigate through the confusing maze of special education in public schools in California. We support families starting as early as preschool through 12th grade, creating individual education plans to support the specific needs of your unique and amazing child. To learn more, go to our website, advocatetoeducate.com. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Don't Call on Me. If you felt a connection to the stories we shared, we encourage you to engage with us online through our social media platforms and YouTube. Contribute your own experiences at don'tcallonme.com and help us spread the word about dyslexia. Your involvement is critical as we build and support our community. Tune in next time for more empowering stories.